Hi, Liberty Warrior here. I want to talk about Bitcoin. I notice a lot of on the internet that there's a lot of sort of debate between Bitcoin and gold. Um, I saw a recent one between Max Kaiser and Peter Schiff. Very entertaining. Um, but they seem to think that Bitcoin and gold are in competition with each other. You know, one's going to win, one isn't going to win. Um, so I want to explain a little bit about Bitcoin as much as I know, but I'm going to highlight some points that I don't think is talked very much about on the internet very much. Because everyone seems to think, you know, where should I put my money? Should I put it in gold? Should I put it in Bitcoin? Um, so if I can explain something about Bitcoin, firstly, um, everyone says that Bitcoin's in a bubble. And is this true or not? Well, yes, some of it is in a bubble, but probably most of it is a bubble. However, there's an underlying technology behind Bitcoin that we don't discuss. And when you see these fluctuations in Bitcoin, and you've got to consider that these things are in a, we're seeing these things where Bitcoin lives in an economic system which is completely corrupt. So and when you see these fluctuations in Bitcoin, you tend just to blame it on Bitcoin, but you don't think about that. Well, Bitcoin's actually sitting in a system that for instance, people will want to buy Bitcoin because they're scared. You know, they're scared of losing the dollar value, and they want to save it in Bitcoin or put it in gold or silver. So, so you've got to consider all these factors. But the best way to look at Bitcoin is look at the fundamental technology that's behind it, and is that fundamental technology useful? Now, the blockchain has got some problems. The two major problems is the proof of work concept, which they modeled off gold. Now, when you think of proof of work, and there's an underlying concept behind proof of work, which I'll tell you in a second, but it's basically, with gold, it takes energy and time, and that's why people value it and people trust it, because it takes time to dig out of the gold. So Bitcoin was modeled by that. It takes time to mine a Bitcoin, and so they actually have to. It uses a lot of power because they have to create these algorithms that has to be solved, and it takes time to solve them, and you're chewing up a lot of energy to do that. Seems a little bit wasteful to do all that. And then you've got a huge blockchain you have to maintain. And so Bitcoin suffers from, at the moment it's suffering from transaction times, taking a long time, and the cost. Because these miners, they take a lot of energy to run these nodes, that, you know, it's costing a lot of money. I don't think Bitcoin imagined it'll get so big so quickly. But what's the underlying thing behind Bitcoin and gold is trust. The reason it takes time to dig out gold out of the ground is the reason we trust it, because it takes a lot of time to dig it out. And of course, the properties of gold, which is one of the main things, and we all know what properties gold has. Now, so trust is the underlying factor behind both of these. Now, there's this. I won't talk about this technology. You can look it up yourself. It's called Hashgraph, and it's got to the core of the basic. The core of it is trust, and they got to the core. So they're using this old technology called Gossip, and they've sort of modified it to be. Gossip was a bit slow. It was relied on this voting algorithms, having everyone voting, but they sort of eliminated the vote. They didn't eliminate the voting. They automated it so that people don't actually vote. It just happens automatically, and it just happens really fast. Now, I'm not going to go too on Hashgraph, but I believe in the future the blockchain will have no real future, because Hashgraph is so much superior. For a few factors. One main factor can handle thousands of transactions a second, where Bitcoin is very limited. I think it's only 7 or so transactions a second, and they have to keep it slow. Otherwise, if they keep it too fast, Bitcoin breaks off into these nodes, which that can't be verified, or so it's it's got problems. It chews up a lot of energy. Hashgraph hardly uses any energy, and a node you can actually run on a cell phone. If you want to find out more information about Hashgraph, that's going to be the future. So the block, but you can. There's a Swirlds is a website. Look it up, sworlds.com. They've actually invented Hashgraph, where they took the old protocol and improved it. Anyway, so that's that. I want to talk about Hashgraph. Back to blockchain and Bitcoin. So Bitcoin will have, it has a value because its value is its utility. Is it being used in transactions? Now the problems they're having now with Bitcoin with their transactions, they will most likely solve them. And in the future, Bitcoin might even adopt Hashgraph technology and just convert it over. So we don't know where Bitcoin is going in terms of will it always have long-term value. But it doesn't matter. A cryptocurrency, in a sense, has a value because it's very useful over the internet. And I'll talk about cryptocurrency. Is it money? Is Bitcoin actual money? No, it isn't. It's not money. It's a currency. And the one thing it doesn't have that money should have is intrinsic value. Whereas gold is a physical element, has intrinsic value. Does that mean that Bitcoin's less of value than gold or usefulness? Not necessarily. Bitcoin has a lot of utility into purchasing stuff over the internet. So you have to look at Bitcoin's underlying technology and to see, well, what other competition is out there. Now, there's many cryptos which have adopted improved technologies over Bitcoin, and the Hashgraph, of course, is something down the track what we've got to look out for. But the cryptos are here to stay, but they're not money, and they need to be valued and backed by something. At the moment, we look at Bitcoin and everyone goes, "Oh, look, Bitcoin's hit so many $1,000, $25,000, or whatever." It went to 19 American, 25 Australian dollars. And they go, yeah, but we're looking at it in compared to dollars. So how are we going to value it down in the future? At the moment, because people aren't using it to buy things, it's a bit hard. I mean, they are using it to buy things, but it's not as much as they do with the dollar, of course. That's its real value if you can use it to buy things. And eventually we'll be able to say, well, one Bitcoin can buy you sort of a house or whatever, possibly down the track. And we'll see it in those terms. It's a bit like when silver and gold was a standard. We knew that a gold could buy you a certain amount, like a suit or whatever, 2 suits or whatever. We had an idea of what it could buy you. At the moment, we have ideas of what dollar can buy you. But as the dollar is reaching hyperinflation, eventually that becomes very difficult. Because the prices are doubling each week, and you go to the store and everything doubles. We're not quite there yet, but we're very close. So the dollar's dead. There's no doubt about it. It's just what's going to replace it. And I see gold and silver. Gold more. I'll talk about silver in a second, but gold will be the money. There's no doubt about it. Cryptos will be valued in gold, and they will have their place and they'll have their use. So they're not going away. Cryptos aren't going away, and gold isn't going away. Gold is money, crypto is a currency, and they work together. It's a bit like how the dollar was a currency for the gold when the government was controlling it. It used to be a gold standard, the dollar, but eventually, of course, that system can be corrupted. Bitcoin's much better than that system. You can't be corrupted like that. You can't be printing money willy-nilly. So it will have its place. It's not a war between Bitcoin and gold. Now you're saying, but you should be aware that most of Bitcoin's value is most likely in a bubble. And the way I see it is you've got to look, do I have a graph? Let me bring up a graph on the screen here. I don't think. Okay, let's have a look at just Bitcoins over, say, all 1 day, 1 week, all. I'll just bring it the last year. Just have a look at it the last year. Okay. So you're going to see, well, how much of this is speculation and how much is actual real value. I'll tend to say, as you go along, look at the troughs where it's collapsed to, and if you draw a line between all it's everywhere it's collapsed, and then you could possibly say that probably anything under that is more likely to be real value, but probably not all of that under the graph. Maybe half of it is the real value and all the rest is speculation. So, but we don't know exactly whereabouts is the real point, but the real value is going up. There's no doubt about it. So whenever it will drop to its real value. And eventually with Bitcoin, it won't. I don't believe Bitcoin will suddenly just overnight go to zero. As long as it has intrinsic use, that people using it for transactions, it's not going to go to zero overnight. But it could lose out to some better cryptocurrency, and that will happen in time. So to give you time to sort of look at it and say, okay, well, this Bitcoin now, I'm going to move to this cryptocurrency because it's using better technology. Like Bitcoin Cash is better than Bitcoin because they've increased the block size. They went from 1 megabyte to 8 megabytes. Bitcoin Cash is better than Bitcoin. So I would personally put my money in. I'll probably keep whatever Bitcoin I have and just start buying some Bitcoin Cash. That said, right? So you've got to think when you're buying this stuff that you're always going to buy it in speculation, because it's always in speculation at any one time, and can always drop any time to its real value, and it will most likely drop when the whole system settles down, and the government basically disappear. It will settle down to a real value. So you're always buying it within speculation, but you can make a lot of money. If you bought it here, you could make a lot of money when it came to here. But when you buy gold or silver, you can't make a lot of money quickly, but it's real money, gold and silver, and it's secure. It's totally secure. So you can't lose with buying gold and silver and just storing it. You just can't. It'll never lose its value, and it's very cheap at the moment. It's the cheapest. Silver is the cheapest it's ever going to be in human history. And I won't talk about silver too much, but silver is tending to be, in the future, will be the rarest metal on this planet, the most valuable metal. And the reason is it's because it's got a lot of technological uses and new technologies coming out. Silver will be able to use for many new technologies. So if you've got silver, but me personally, I would want to put most of my wealth in silver, play around with the Bitcoin market a bit, and just put some money in there, and one of the cryptos is going to win at the end, and you could make a lot of money. But always, you put your money in Bitcoin, the amount you think you want to lose, because it could, as I said, it probably won't go to zero, but it'll take time to go to zero, and you have a chance to take your money out. But just be aware that it could drop any time. Whereas in gold, in silver, you can put all your wealth in silver, and you'll never lose out. Silver's not in a bubble. It's nowhere near a bubble. It's the cheapest asset you could possibly buy, and then probably gold is next. Silver is extremely cheap because its gold to silver ratio has never been. I think it was. I don't know what it is. I haven't looked lately. It was 70 to 1. It could be 50 to 1 now. I'm not sure. It's probably more. It could be 80 to 1. It's never been like that in human history. It's been manipulated down, silver, through silver derivatives. Just the fake silver flooded the market. People buying this paper silver thinking it's backed by real silver, which is just a crime. At the end of the day, that's a crime. But silver is the best best investment you could possibly do today, but you have to wait. And I've seen things saying by even the next 4 years, silver is going to be unattainable. It's going to be so rare, you won't be able to buy it anywhere. And anyone who has it is going to be very wealthy. Even if you only have a small amount, you're still going to do quite well. But that's sort of like a prediction for silver, but it's a logical prediction due to the actual element itself, the material itself, and why it's going to be so valuable. There's a few other factors about silver, why it's going to be valuable. They're not finding it as fast as they are finding gold. So they're not pulling it out of the ground fast enough. Population is increasing all the time, and the technological uses. So, and now in history, it will never come again. Silver, it will never be this cheap, ever again in human history. So buy it now, until maybe the point where we can just manufacture any element we want with some machine. But if we can do that, we're going to be fine. Okay, so don't panic about Bitcoin. Just keep an eye out for other cryptos that are coming. I'd probably say, look, if you see a lot of cryptos, just put $10 in each of them. If one of them takes off, you're going to be freaking, it'll outweigh all the others. So, but look out for Hashgraph. Research yourself into it, see what it's all about. It will replace the blockchain, there's no doubt. It's simply better technology. The blockchain can't even sustain a full economic. If everyone started using blockchain, it wouldn't work because it's just too slow. It's just way too slow. It's just impossible to work as money unless they do something down the track. Now they could do something. They're improving things about Bitcoin, and hopefully they could do something. I think what they're going to do eventually is adopt Hashgraph technology. And why wouldn't they? If everyone's invested heavily in Bitcoin and it's so much value, and they're just going to let all that value die, I would be thinking that they're going to say, pick the best technology that's out there, which would be Hashgraph in the future, not too far future, by the way, maybe in the next 4 or 5 years, and they'll adopt that. They'll simply work out a way. They forked it already. They forked it to Bitgold, Bitmoney. They'll fork it to freaking some new technology, Hashgraph, and let Bitcoin die, and everyone just transfer to Hashgraph, Hashgraph technology. So don't be scared that you're going to lose everything with Bitcoin, because it's very unlikely that it's going to go to zero, as Peter Schiff was always saying. It's going to go to zero, and I don't think it will. Peter Schiff is right, though, in a lot of way, in a lot of sense, that you do need something intrinsic, and gold will always be money. But Bitcoin has utility. Okay, so that's the main thing. It has utility. Look at its utility. How many people are using it in real transactions? And look for better technologies. And are they being used? And their potential. So that's how you think of Bitcoin. Everyone's just too crazy about, it's went to 25,000 and went, it's lost 10,000. So what? It's going to lose a lot. The bigger it gets, the variations are going to be much bigger. Okay, so yeah, that's it. All right, that's it, Liberty Warrior. That's all I want to say about Bitcoin. I hope it's cleared up a few things about Bitcoin, and that's as far as my understanding goes about it. And I'll be always cautious with it, and always prefer silver to anything else out there. You just have to wait, but at least you're secure with silver. 100% secure. With Bitcoin, you don't know 100%, but Okay, all right. Liberty Warrior signing off.